The Book Essence Podcast, Episode 16. I Will Teach You to Be Rich.
Hey everyone, welcome back. We are tackling a book today that's a lot of people have heard of. I think I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. And we've gotten a ton of notes from you all, emails, questions, even some confused emojis, which is great.
Yeah, it's a popular one.
It is a popular one, and I think it's worth going through and seeing, like, what are the key takeaways from this book. And hopefully by the end of this, you'll walk away with a few actionable things that you can use to improve your own finances.
Yeah, I think what's interesting about Sethi's approach is that it's not about deprivation, it's about systems.
Right.
It's about kind of making your money work for you and not the other way around.
Yeah, and I noticed in your notes you highlighted that bit about using credit cards to your advantage.
Yeah.
And I think that is counterintuitive to a lot of people who, when they think about personal finance, it's like, cut up your credit cards. Get rid of them.
Credit cards are evil.
Yeah, they're bad. Don't use them. And Sethi's kind of like, wait a minute.
Yeah, there's almost this moral judgment around credit cards. Like they're inherently bad.
Yeah.
But Sethi's point is they're a tool.
Mm-hmm.
And like any tool, it depends on how you use it.
Okay, so how does he propose that we use them to our advantage?
Well, the first thing he does is he kind of debunks this myth that you can't negotiate with credit card companies.
Okay.
He actually gives an example in the book of calling his own credit card company and using a very specific phrase to get his annual fee waived.
Oh, wow.
And he even provides scripts in the book, which I think is super helpful.
You try that?
I did.
Then...
And I have to admit, I was a little bit skeptical.
Yeah.
But I followed his script almost word for word.
Okay.
And they waived the fee.
Wow.
It was amazing.
So it's not about avoiding credit cards. It's about being smart.
Absolutely.
About using them.
And proactive.
Yes.
He talks about not only waiving fees, but also negotiating your interest rates.
Oh, interesting.
Think about how much money you could save over the years with even a slightly lower interest rate.
That's a good point, yeah.
So, it's not just about avoiding them, it's about being smart about using them.
And I feel like that is a bit of a theme in this book overall.
Absolutely. Sethi really emphasizes taking control of your finances rather than letting them control you.
Okay, so we tackled credit cards. What's next on this roadmap to riches?
So Chapter 2 dives into another area where we often feel powerless, and that is banking.
Okay.
Sethi argues that traditional banks aren't always working in our best interest, often profiting from hidden fees and offering just paltry interest rates on savings accounts.
Yeah, I highlighted that section about how the average savings account is like 0.0 something %.
Exactly right.
Is nothing.
You're basically losing money to inflation at that point.
Totally, yeah.
And so he really encourages people to explore online banks, which typically offer much higher interest rates and lower fees.
Okay.
So your money is actually growing
Yeah.
as opposed to just sitting there.
I think some people listening might be a little bit hesitant about these online banks. Yeah. Especially like security is a big concern, I think, for people.
Yeah, I understand that. But honestly, online banks invest heavily in technology and security measures.
Right.
They're often even more secure than traditional banks.
Okay.
And in today's world, let's face it, most of our banking is already happening online anyway.
It is, yeah.
So you're probably already using an online bank, even if you have a traditional bank.
That's a good point.
So
Sethi's kind of challenging us to re-examine like what we consider to be normal when it comes to finances.
Absolutely. Yeah, he wants us to be informed consumers.
Yeah.
Whether it's choosing a credit card or deciding where to park our savings.
So we are being smart about credit cards. We're finding banks that actually work for us. What's the next step in building this rich life?
Well, Chapter 3 tackles a big one, and that's investing.
Okay.
And it's something that a lot of people find intimidating.
Yeah.
But Sethi breaks it down in a way that's really accessible, I think even for complete beginners.
Yeah. I remember you were telling me that before you read this book, you were a little bit hesitant to start investing.
I thought it was this super complicated thing only for financial experts.
Yeah.
But Sethi emphasizes that you don't have to be a Wall Street whiz to get started.
Right.
He actually uses this really compelling example in the book. He says, imagine someone starting with just $100 a month at age 25.
I'm guessing that turns into a lot.
It does because of the magic of compound interest.
Yes.
That $100 a month over time
Grows
substantially.
But consistency and time are our friends when it comes to investing.
Exactly. And Sethi argues that starting early, even with small amounts, is far more impactful than trying to time the market
Okay.
or make big risky bets later on.
So where do we begin?
Yeah.
Where do we begin?
I know he talks about 401ks and Roth IRAs.
Yeah, and those can sound like a foreign language to a lot of people.
They can, but think about it this way.
Yeah.
A 401k is basically a retirement savings plan that's sponsored by your employer. And the cool part is that a lot of companies will actually match your contributions.
Yeah.
Sometimes even dollar for dollar up to a certain percentage.
It's like free money.
It is. It's free money. Essentially, a Roth IRA, on the other hand, is an individual retirement account that you can set up yourself.
Right.
And you contribute after-tax money, and then your earnings grow tax-free, and you can withdraw them tax-free in retirement.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, I think a lot of people have heard of these terms, but to actually understand, like, what they mean is...
Yeah, it can be a little confusing.
Yeah.
But what I love is that Sethi really breaks it down in a way that's easy to understand.
Okay, and so we put money into these accounts.
Yeah.
And then what?
Well, and that's where Sethi's emphasis on simplicity comes in.
Okay.
He suggests starting with index funds.
Index funds.
Yeah. Have you heard of those?
I have heard of them, yes.
Okay. So basically, these are baskets of stocks that track a particular market index.
Okay.
Like the S&P 500. They're low cost, they're diversified, and historically, they've performed very well.
So instead of trying to, like, pick stocks and time the market and, all that complicated stuff, we can just, like, throw our money into these index funds.
You're basically riding the wave of the overall market growth.
Okay.
And you don't have to try to outsmart everybody else.
Okay, that sounds a lot less stressful than, like, constantly refreshing like a stock ticker.
Right, and it aligns with Sethi's overall philosophy.
Which is?
Build a solid financial foundation,
Okay.
automate as much as possible, and then focus on living your life.
Okay, I like that. Already I feel like a weight is being lifted off of me.
Right.
Just in these first couple chapters of this book, like just taking these first few actions.
Absolutely.
Already feels good.
Yeah, and this is just the beginning.
This is just chapter 3. We're just getting started.
We are just getting started in chapter 4. Sethi introduces this concept of conscious spending.
Oh.
And this is a game changer.
Ooh, okay. Conscious spending, tell me more.
Well, it's not about deprivation.
Okay.
It's about intentionality.
Okay.
Sethi argues that you can actually spend extravagantly on the things that you truly love,
Okay.
as long as you're ruthlessly cutting back on the things that you don't.
I like that. Okay, so it's about aligning your spending with your values.
Exactly.
Like what actually matters to you.
Yes.
You spend money on those things, and the things that you don't care about,
cut them out.
cut them ruthlessly.
Right.
He actually uses this term. He talks about identifying your money dials.
Your money dials.
Your money dials.
Okay.
These are the things that you're truly passionate about and willing to splurge on.
Okay.
So for some people, it might be travel. For others, it might be fashion or gadgets or dining out.
Got it.
The key is to figure out your dials and then super intentionally cut costs everywhere else.
So strategic indulgence, is that what we're going for?
Strategic indulgence.
Okay. I like that.
And to help with this, he introduces what he calls the 4-bucket system.
Okay, 4 buckets. I'm intrigued. Oh. Yeah, so basically you're dividing your income into 4 categories.
Okay.
Fixed costs like your rent and your bills.
Yeah.
Investments.
Got it.
Savings for specific goals. And then guilt-free spending money.
Ooh, guilt-free spending money.
Guilt-free spending money.
That's the dream.
It is the dream, right?
That is.
But the key is to automate the first 3.
Okay.
So your fixed costs, your savings, and your investments are all happening automatically in the background.
Okay.
And then whatever is left over is yours to spend guilt-free on whatever brings you joy.
Okay. I love that. That's amazing in theory. But I imagine for a lot of us, automating our finances can seem...
daunting.
Yeah, a little bit daunting.
Yeah, I get it, but it's not as complicated as you might think.
Okay.
And that's exactly what Chapter 5 is all about. It's automating your finances so you can, as Sethi puts it, save while you sleep.
Oh, I like that. Okay.
So he's talking about building a system that works for you.
Yeah.
Even when you're not actively thinking about it.
That sounds ideal.
It is ideal, right?
Yes.
And he breaks down exactly how to do this, how to set up automatic transfers for your savings, your investments, bill payments, everything.
Okay.
It's like having a personal financial assistant working tirelessly for you 24/7.
So does this mean if we automate everything, we never have to think about money again?
Not necessarily. While automation takes care of the day-to-day, it's still important to be aware of the bigger picture.
Right.
And that brings us to Chapter 6, which tackles this whole idea of the financial expert.
Ooh, I've been looking forward to this one.
Yeah.
Because there are so many self-proclaimed gurus out there.
So many.
It can be hard to know who to trust.
Absolutely. And I think that's part of why people get so intimidated by personal finance. It feels like you need some specialized knowledge or you need to know the secrets.
Right.
But Sethi kind of flips that on its head.
Okay, so what's his take on these experts?
Well, he reveals a pretty shocking stat in the book. He says that even professional investors often fail to outperform the market. Yeah, so he's basically debunking this myth that you need a fancy financial advisor to manage your money.
So if not the experts, then who do we trust? Where do we get this information?
Well, Sethi's a big advocate for index funds. Remember those baskets of stocks that we talked about?
Yes.
He argues that they're a simple and effective way to invest for the long term without getting bogged down in complicated stock picking or relying on someone else to manage your money.
Okay. Empowering ourselves with information,
Right.
like making our own decisions rather than just blindly following someone
Exactly.
else's advice.
Exactly. And that leads perfectly into Chapter 7,
Okay.
which stresses that investing isn't just for the wealthy.
Okay.
Anyone can start small and build wealth over time.
That's good.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people feel like investing is out of reach. You have to have a lot of money
You don't. You really don't.
to start.
You can start small.
You mentioned something about asset allocation.
Yes.
Is that something that is relevant here?
Yeah. It is. It can sound a little intimidating, but it's really not that complicated.
Oh.
Basically, asset allocation means dividing your investments across different asset classes,
Okay.
like stocks and bonds to manage risk.
So what would be an example of that?
So imagine a portfolio that's, say, 80% stocks and 20% bonds.
Okay, why 80-20?
Well, it's not a magic formula, but it is a common starting point
Okay.
for a balanced portfolio.
Got it.
Stocks are generally considered riskier,
Okay.
but they offer higher potential for growth.
Okay.
While bonds are typically more stable but with lower returns.
Tight.
So that 80-20 split is often recommended for long-term investors who are still relatively young and have time to ride out any market fluctuations.
Oh, it's like risk versus reward.
Exactly.
Finding that balance.
Finding the right balance for you based on your individual circumstances and goals.
Got it.
And this is another area where Sethi encourages people to, do their own research.
Right.
Maybe talk to a fee-only financial advisor if needed. But ultimately make decisions that align with their personal risk tolerance and long-term plans.
So we've got the automation set up.
Yeah.
We're putting money in our index funds.
Yes.
We've got our asset allocation all balanced.
We're doing great.
What's next?
Well, once you've got the basics covered, it's all about maintaining that momentum, making sure your investments stay on track, and, as Sethi puts it, ignoring the market noise.
Okay, that already feels good.
Right.
Like so much of the personal finance advice is like constant vigilance.
Yes.
Like you got to be checking your accounts every day.
Yeah, checking the stock prices every day.
Yeah, you're just on edge all the time. And he's kind of like, no, chill out a little bit.
Exactly. He really advocates for a more hands-off approach once you've set up that solid foundation.
Okay, I like that. So you're not constantly like, freaking out about every little dip in the market.
Right.
Which can be really tempting to do.
It is tempting.
Yeah.
And one of the key concepts he introduces here is rebalancing. Rebalancing?
Have you heard of that?
I have heard of that. I don't know if I could explain it.
Okay, so basically it means periodically adjusting your portfolio to bring it back to your original asset allocation.
Okay. Can you give me like a concrete example of what that would look like?
Sure. So let's say your stocks have done really well.
Okay.
And now they make up a larger percentage of your portfolio than you intended.
Okay.
So what you would do is sell some of your stocks and buy more bonds to restore that balance.
Okay. Got it.
It's a simple adjustment, but it helps manage risk.
Yeah.
And ensure that your investments stay aligned with your long-term goals.
And we're not just like chasing returns or like, reacting emotionally
Exactly.
to every little thing that happens.
You're not constantly chasing returns.
Yeah. Okay.
Sticking to the plan.
I like it. I like it.
It's like setting your financial ship on a course and then just making small adjustments along the way to stay on track.
I love that analogy. Like
Yeah.
that's really good. It's about having that long-term vision
Yeah.
and not getting distracted by all that day-to-day noise.
So we've built the foundation.
Yes.
We've automated the system.
Yeah.
Now we're ready to
Design our rich life.
design our rich life.
That is the focus of Chapter 9, and honestly, it's one of the most inspiring parts of the book.
Ooh. Okay, so it's about more than just the numbers in our bank account. It's about,
It's about creating a life that we love.
okay,
It goes beyond just money management
Yeah.
and explores how to apply these financial principles to other areas of our lives.
Okay.
Like relationships, big purchases, even career growth.
Interesting.
It's about living a life that's rich with experiences.
Okay.
Relationships meaning not just material possessions.
So like defining our own version of what a rich life looks like.
Exactly, because it's different for everyone. It's not about keeping up with the Joneses
Right.
or chasing some arbitrary definition of success. It's about figuring out what truly matters to you and then using your financial resources to support those goals and values.
I like that.
Right.
Yeah, it's a different way of thinking about it, but I think it's a really important one.
It is.
It is, yeah. And I think a good place to start is with some of the specific advice that Sethi gives in this Designing Your Rich Life chapter.
Sure. Yeah, he tackles a lot of real-life situations, that many of us face.
Right.
For instance, he has a whole section on managing money in relationships.
Okay.
And it's not just about, splitting bills evenly or anything like that.
Right.
He goes deeper, talking about aligning your financial goals with your partner, having open and honest conversations about money, and finding ways to support each other's financial aspirations.
Money can be such a source of stress in a relationship, I feel like.
Oh, absolutely.
And so like having some kind of framework
Yeah.
for how to navigate those conversations, I think is incredibly valuable.
It can be really helpful. And he also talks about big purchases.
Okay.
Like buying a car.
Right.
And he emphasizes doing your research, negotiating the price, not getting swept up in the excitement of the moment.
Yeah.
He even suggests waiting a few days after getting a price quote
Okay.
to give yourself time to think it over rationally.
Yeah, just that cooling off period.
Yes, exactly.
Like, really think about, is this the right decision?
Is this the right move for me?
Yeah, because I know I've definitely been guilty of impulse purchases in the past.
For sure.
And sometimes you need that little bit of time
That space.
to step back and be like, okay, am I making the right call here?
Am I really excited about this, or am I just caught up in the moment?
Exactly. And he also has a whole section on student loans,
Oh, yeah.
which, let's face it, is a huge burden
It is for a lot of people.
for so many people. Yeah.
Yeah, and he talks about different repayment option strategies for paying off your debt faster, and even how to negotiate with loan servicers to potentially lower your interest rate or your monthly payments.
Man, I wish I'd read this book back when I was dealing with student loans.
I know, right?
This is some valuable information here.
It's really practical advice
Yeah.
that can make a big difference.
Yeah, I feel like this is a recurring theme in the book is like, you don't have to just be a victim of your circumstances.
Right.
Like you can take control
You have the balance
and make choices that actually serve you.
to shape your own financial destiny.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Speaking of taking control, didn't you say that Sethi emphasizes the importance of negotiation?
I did. Yes.
A lot.
Throughout the entire book.
And we talked about it earlier with the credit cards.
Yeah, with the fees and the interest rates.
But he takes it further than that, right?
He does. He argues that negotiation is a skill that everyone should develop, regardless of your income or financial goals.
Okay.
He even suggests negotiating your salary.
Ooh, that's scary.
I know it can be intimidating for a lot of people,
Yeah.
but he provides scripts and strategies to help you approach those conversations with confidence.
So we can ask for what we're worth.
Exactly. It's about recognizing your value
Yeah.
and advocating for yourself.
I like that.
And it goes beyond salary negotiations.
Oh,
He encourages people to negotiate everything.
everything.
From rent to cable bills to even medical expenses.
I would never have thought to negotiate my medical bills.
I know, right?
Like that just seems so,
It can feel a little uncomfortable at first.
yeah, out there.
But Sethi argues that even small wins
Yeah.
can add up to significant savings over time.
Right.
And he provides lots of examples and scripts in the book to help people get comfortable with the process.
So he's really giving us a toolkit
Yes.
for navigating this world.
Exactly.
And I think another interesting thing about Sethi's approach is that he challenges a lot of the traditional assumptions
Yes, he does.
about personal finance. Like, what are some examples of that?
Well, for example, he doesn't necessarily believe that homeownership is always the best financial move.
Okay, that's interesting because that goes against like a lot of conventional wisdom.
It does, but he encourages readers to really think about their individual circumstances and long-term goals.
Yeah.
He points out that Renting can sometimes make more financial sense,
Okay.
especially if you're not planning to stay in one place for a long time,
Right.
or if you're not ready for the responsibilities of homeownership.
Yeah.
So again, it comes back to making informed choices
Right.
that align with your own personal values and aspirations.
Not just blindly following what everyone else is doing or what you've been told you should do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that. So to kind of sum up this whole designing your rich life chapter,
Yeah.
what are some of the key takeaways or action steps that Sethi recommends?
Sure, he offers a lot of great advice, but some of the key points that I highlighted were have open and honest conversations about money
Go.
with your partner or anyone else that you share finances with.
Got it.
Don't be afraid to negotiate. Whether it's your salary, a big purchase, or even a recurring bill.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that renting can be a smart financial choice depending on your circumstances and goals.
Yeah.
And most importantly, define your own version of a rich life
Yes.
and build a financial system that supports those aspirations.
I love that it's not just about, money. It's about aligning your finances with your values
Yeah.
and creating a life that feels
Fulfilling.
authentic and fulfilling to you.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, this has been so great. And I feel like we're just scratching the surface of what Sethi covers in this book.
I know, right?
There's so much in here.
There's so much good stuff.
But I think we've covered a lot of really valuable information.
We have, and I think it's a good reminder that building a rich life isn't about deprivation
Right.
or following a rigid set of rules. It's
Yeah.
about having the knowledge and tools to make informed decisions
Yes.
that align with our values and goals.
Well said. Okay, so I think this is a good place to transition to Sethi's final thoughts and takeaways.
Yeah, where he kind of brings it all together.
Yes, I'm excited to hear what he has to say. Okay, so we're back and ready to hear what Sethi has to say in his concluding thoughts. What are some of the key takeaways that he emphasizes?
Well, he kind of brings it all back around. Financial success is not about deprivation or following like a rigid set of rules. It's about creating a system that works for you, automating your finances, and then spending consciously on the things that bring you joy. It's about building a life that feels rich and fulfilling on your own terms.
I like that it's not about, penny pinching or feeling guilty about spending money. It's about being intentional.
Right.
And making choices that align with your values.
Exactly. And he also really encourages readers to take action.
Yeah.
It's easy to get caught up in the planning and the researching, but nothing changes until you actually do something.
Right.
He's a big believer in what he calls the 85% rule. It's
Yeah.
better to get started and make adjustments along the way than to wait for the perfect plan.
I love that. Don't let perfection be the enemy of progress.
Mhm.
So often we get paralyzed by the fear of making a mistake, and it keeps us from taking any action at all.
Yeah, and he reminds us that you don't have to have it all figured out from day one.
Right.
You can start small, learn as you go, and adjust your course as needed. The most important thing is to get started.
So what are some concrete steps that people listening can take right now to kind of put Sethi's advice into action?
Well, if you haven't already opened a 401k or a Roth IRA and start investing today, even if it's just a small amount, set up automatic transfers for your savings, your bills, your investments, so you don't even have to think about it.
Yeah.
And challenge yourself to negotiate at least one financial expense in your life, whether it's a credit card fee, a bank fee, or even your salary.
Yeah, those are great actionable steps that I think anyone can implement.
Absolutely.
And I feel like Sethi's overall message is really about empowering people to take control of their finances and design a life that they love.
It really is. It's about shifting your mindset from scarcity to abundance and recognizing that you have the power to create the financial future that you desire.
That's such a great point. This has been such an insightful deep dive.
It has.
And I love that Sethi, doesn't just focus on the mechanics of money management.
Right.
He really emphasizes the importance of aligning your finances with your values and creating a life that feels meaningful and fulfilling.
Yeah, and I think one of the most valuable takeaways from this book is that investing in yourself and your knowledge is just as important as investing in stocks or bonds.
I love that point. The more we learn about personal finance, the better equipped we are to make informed decisions, navigate complex situations,
Absolutely.
and ultimately achieve our financial goals.
It's about empowering yourself with the knowledge and the tools to create a life of financial freedom and abundance.
That's a great place to end it. So to all you listening, remember, it's not about deprivation. It's about conscious choices, smart systems, and a little bit of financial savvy. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep reaching for those financial dreams. And that's a wrap on our deep dive into I Will Teach You to Be Rich. Thanks for joining us.